Hello learners, welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. We are discussing the third unit of our paper Fundamentals of Sociology, and now we are going to talk about scientific method. So when we talk about sociology as a discipline, it becomes very important for us to understand what is this scientific method. So scientific method is basically lot of reliance on empirical evidences based on observation, based on data. So until and unless sociology as a discipline is not using scientific method, calling sociology as a science would be a kind of cheating. So let us try to understand what is the scientific method. So scientific method is based firstly on, as I said, empirical evidence. It talks a lot about concepts, what kind of concepts is used, objectivity, that is trying to understand things in a objective manner, in a factual manner, and not on the basis of biases and our individual likes and dislikes. There has to be ethical neutrality. Generalization is one very important principle in social science research, because we study a small sample and try to generalize it for a larger population. Logical reasoning in terms of induction and deduction also become very critical in scientific method. There has to be the elements of reliability, validity and verifiability in scientific method. So if you are using scientific method in social sciences, especially in sociology, it has to be reliable, it has to be valid and it has to be verifiable also. So what are the key steps which can be included when we are doing a sociological research based on scientific method? So basically you have to have a clear idea of what is the problem we are trying to study. Then we also try to review the literature connected with that particular problem, because usually we are not the first person to do research on that. For example, if I want to do a study on child labor in Telangana, I am not the first person to do study on child labor. So who are the other people who have done on child labor, what dimensions they have covered, all those things I am going to review, and that is what comes under literature review. Then we formulate objectives, we formulate hypotheses, we become clear about our concepts. See, concept is an idea, okay, and when you are measuring the idea, you have to convert that concept into construct. For example, middle class is an idea, it is a concept, but if I want to collect data on middle class, I should have income as a criteria, and that is where concept becomes construct. I should have a clear-cut research design to carry out a scientific research. Data collection has to be scientific based on proper tools and methods of data collection. I should be doing the field work, I should be doing the data processing and analysis, and finally write a report on that. These are the important steps in scientific research. Now, direct experimentation in sociology is of course a very difficult task, but still we have multiple experimental methods which I will be discussing in couple of minutes now. Now, one major challenge is what? That the researcher who is doing research using scientific method is also part of society, and that is why it becomes little challenging to carry out social research, but we can overcome those challenges. It is not that you cannot overcome, we can definitely overcome those challenges. And what we are studying in social research, they are filled with values. I would request my dear friends for you all to also refer Max Weber's value neutral science. It is a beautiful concept. You will easily get lot of literature on that. Please do refer if you have to understand these dimensions more clearly. So sociologists, despite facing the challenges of objectivity, we try to do very objective research. We are in fact in a way impacted lot with subjectivity, but still we try to do an objective research based on scientific observations, interviews and surveys. And definitely predictions become little difficult in sociology. Exact predictions like sciences is not a easy task. So sociology uses scientific methods, but these scientific methods are slightly different as used in natural sciences. This distinction we have to be very, very clear. And social sciences, scientific method in social sciences is relatively more descriptive and interpretative in nature, and at the same time it lacks universally fixed laws as we have in physical sciences, but still it contributes significantly to understanding and solving the social problems. My dear friends, here I would like to focus little more clearly on what is this objective and subjective, because if we don't understand this in scientific method, it will be difficult for us to carry out the research. Just to give you an example, for example, if you see this, I say that this is a red color bottle. I am making two statements. Listen to me carefully. This is a red color bottle. This is the first statement. I say this is a beautiful bottle. This is the second statement. So when I am saying that this is a red color bottle, I am telling the fact. I am being objective. Here my likes and dislikes are not involved here. But when I am making a statement that this is a beautiful bottle, then what is happening? Probably I like red color, probably I like the shape of the bottle, and that is why I am saying that it is a beautiful bottle. So try to understand that challenges of a social researcher using scientific method is we are completely drowned into subjective elements where lot of values, lot of emotions are there. Despite that, we have to carry out a factual research. It is definitely one of the biggest challenges which every social scientist, and particularly in sociology, every sociologist faces while using scientific method in a social research. But we can definitely overcome this kind of challenges by making our methods, making our tools more objective in nature. And as a budding sociologist, it is very important for us to understand that objectivity, objective research is the soul of scientific method, and of course it has to be reliable, it has to be valid, it has to be trustworthy, because if your data is not trustworthy, scientific method has got no essence at all. And further, when we try to explore the essence of scientific method in terms of reasoning, so scientific method also brings out very good induction and deduction methods at its forefront. So what kind of tools are you using to deduce laws or induce laws from the facts what you have studied? So scientific method like when it is using generalization. So generalization, now let us say if I am carrying out a study in a particular university which has 10,000 students, I will be able to study, let us say, only 300 students as an individual researcher. So whatever I am finding out for that 300 students, I will be generalizing it for the entire university. And that is where, while doing generalization, it becomes very important that the sample what we are selecting as 300, that has to be representative.